I was referring to file number 18AJ01. I'm David Grigg.
Yes, sir. Did you just call for Crawford?
Well, I did, but I really just need whoever's active on this case.
Well, Crawford has been handling it. He's actually out with the flu until Monday. Let me see if there's someone
Well,
else,
yeah,
who can speak with you, okay? Give me 1 second, sir.
right.
All right, Mr. Grigg, let me put you up to Andrea Capua. She also handles DSS matters, okay?
Please do.
Sure. Give me 1 second. Let me transfer you. Andrea Capua, can I help you?
Yes, ma'am. My son and I are going through proceedings, and he hasn't. We haven't. Let's see. What was I calling?
Well,
I was trying to get
I
him
know
a
you were
guardian ad litem, someone that would represent him in this final, the last or this next proceeding coming up next week.
Yeah.
There's nobody there representing the kid and his real attitude versus what his attitude was when he was being questioned about the
Mm-hmm.
concerns. And without him being represented in the proper fashion,
Yeah.
uh, there's nothing that I can do to expedite anything. You see, and I was
Okay,
wanting to
so
see
the way these,
where the
and just
state
so you know,
is right
excuse me,
now.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? So, I know you were asking for Mr. Cleveland, and just so you know, I'm his partner, so I'm also an attorney, and I will be handling the case on, next week.
Uh huh.
So,
Well, good. So you're
what,
up to bat then. So we won't be
yeah, so
wasting time here.
what you're saying is you're concerned that your son doesn't have representation, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So if he has any wishes or desires, you want those to be heard and somebody to address those. Is that correct?
You'd think so. Yes. Yes, that's what
Okay.
I'm looking for because I haven't seen or heard
So,
the
so what
presence.
happens, just so you know, like, on next week, we have something called an adjudication, and that's where we have to kind of go through the same proceeding as we did the last two hearings.
Mm-hmm. And this is me
if
trying
we,
to get some of these checks out of these boxes. Of course.
yeah, so but we have, so the last two hearings were, um, were preliminary hearings, and so the adjudication hearing, which is scheduled for next week, is basically going to be the same format, and we're going to put on the same evidence, and the judge has to make a final decision as to whether or not, the things that DSS put in the petition are true.
Yeah.
And if we prove that, then what happens is your son will get appointed a guardian ad litem. And if you're when you're like, assuming we prove it, then your son, then what the court does is it appoints a guardian ad litem, which is an individual who will be appointed for your son for the exact reason that you called me, and
Is
that
there?
is the guardian ad litem is an adult. It's not an attorney. It's somebody who volunteers. They're adults that have been trained, and they volunteer to be an advocate for your son.
Yeah, what he wants and what he feels is real. Yeah.
Right.
Because he
Right.
shook
Now,
up, this is more traumatic to him than it is to anybody else. And he's got to
yeah,
wait for these long proceedings before he gets to clear the record.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, I don't know how you feel about this, but since you called, I'll ask you. I know you want him back, and and this is a long shot. If you would consider consenting to this adjudication hearing, and if you did consent, then it would start pretty quickly. With getting a guardian ad litem involved, and then the good thing about DSS.
Well, I
know you
mean,
don't
I
like
can't
DSS,
consent to it. Everything on that's been checked off as far as medical treatment and stuff, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
I got a medical treatment if anything, the record should show that I was a quite frequent user of the medical
Yeah.
treatment for any kind of croup or anything, because I didn't want him to live with anything to suffer from, you know. And I made an ample. I mean, I even got I sent a note the first week that he got his bruise to school,
Mm-hmm.
and the coach didn't see anything wrong with it at
Yeah.
that point, and neither did the next doctor's visit see anything wrong with it. And, there's not a whole lot that could have been done one way or the other if there just wasn't nothing wrong with it. It was a bruise, it was a bruise, It wasn't a malnorm. It wasn't something that come up out of the blue and was infectious. It was just a bruise. So, that should be gone as far as a check mark. Chad's came through here and seen the place. It's not a bad place. And I don't know what other marks are on there. But,
Well,
I mean,
I think I don't have your file in front of me, but my recollection was that at one point your son was didn't want to be home. I mean, and that
well,
may
that's
have
what
changed.
that's what Carrie Triplett got wrote down, and what she took from it, and
I mean, if you
that's
would
what
be
she
willing
took
to
from it.
agree to just that, and
Well, I ain't really glued to that, because I tell you, I got hours and hours of videos of us roughhousing, and it as rough as it gets around here.
yeah,
So I mean, he was just touchy because he had this tooth coming out, which was, we got it out, and it's like it just came out yesterday. It's been coming out for a while. It's like almost an inch long, one of his canines, and it came out by being pushed by a bigger tooth, We've been trying to make a dentist appointment. There's no dentist appointment to be had still, and I wasn't really concerned with it until that canines did come out. I mean, his teeth he's like got the best teeth in the world, So, he's gotten all the medical
So
care.
so let me say this. There's one benefit from DSF being involved. I know you don't want them involved.
Well, I know
and
they're involved, but they're
there's
just
one There's a
extreme.
benefit from them
Well, I
being
know,
involved.
and once he gets back in the house, I'm going to exploit it.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
But-
anyway, the
but-
benefit would be that you can get services. You can get some financial help from them and some services.
yeah, I'm aware of all that, and I know this is going to be long. I mean, but I didn't do, that's what I'm saying. He has to have advocates speak for him because,
Well,
he was sore. He was
If
sore,
we-
and
if
they
we
were, and they've been
win,
going through. He's
He'll
been
get
going.
an advocate under two circumstances. One is if we're successful, like the last two hearings, if the judge says, that what DSS said in the petition was true enough to keep him, involved with DSS. That's one option. The other option is if you work out some kind of an agreement with DSS. The other possibility is you could win, and
It'd be
the judge-
exonerated, right? Because I
and
mean,
the judge dismisses the case and your son goes home with you. So those are the three scenarios.
is there any new evidence or anything that I need to be aware of before we start? I'm
No,
glad.
because the evidence will be the same evidence that's been put in front of